Hey there. How was your day? Wherever you are right now, whatever time it is, I'm glad you're here. If you're lying down, maybe under a soft blanket, or listening while the hum of a fan spins quietly nearby, welcome. You found your way to HypnoScience, where science drifts like mist and time moves without urgency. Tonight, we're going to float gently into a space so vast, so still, that it humbles even the loudest thoughts. Not the stars themselves, but the silence between them. What fills the space between galaxies? What does a vacuum really mean? And if no one is there to hear it, is space truly silent? These aren't loud questions. They don't demand answers. They simply hang there like quiet lanterns drifting. As you begin to relax, let your thoughts stretch a little farther than usual. Maybe past the edge of the Milky Way. Maybe into a part of the cosmos where the stars are so far apart, light takes millions of years just to whisper between them. Let your body get heavier. Let your breath slow down. The visuals on screen are here to keep you company. But if your eyes are tired, feel free to close them. The silence won't mind. And if you're tuning in from somewhere far or close, let me know below what's your local time and where in the world are you gently watching from. If this kind of slow, poetic science feels like a soft blanket for your mind, I'd be honored if you liked or subscribed. Every bit of support helps HypnoScience reach more gentle thinkers, more sleepy wanderers. Now, let's drift into the quiet space between stars. The hush that holds everything together. The pause before the universe speaks. Silence is not just the absence of sound. It's the absence of interruption, of motion, of need. And in the universe, silence doesn't happen often, even when it seems like it should. We live on a planet full of noise. Waves, winds, whispers of leaves. The soft pulse of your own breath. The ticking warmth of blood moving under skin. Even in the quietest places on Earth, an empty room, a midnight field, a soundproof chamber, there is always something. Something creaks. Something hums. Something breathes. But step beyond this atmosphere, and that changes. Out there, sound no longer travels. Because sound is not just a feeling. It's a physical wave, one that needs a medium to move through. Air, water, wood, flesh. Without it, silence isn't just likely. It's law. In space, a bell wouldn't ring. A violin string wouldn't sing. Even if it moved. Even if it vibrated with all its might. Because there is no air to carry the wave. No molecules to pass it along. Only stillness. Only vacuum. But what is a vacuum, really? The word makes it sound like space is empty. Clean. Clear. Sterile. But that's not quite true. Even the emptiest corners of space are not truly empty. They hold stray atoms, dust particles, stray rays of light, flashes of radiation from faraway galaxies, the occasional rogue planet drifting silently between stars. And even when there is nothing visible, quantum physics tells us something strange. That emptiness is never truly empty. That particles flicker in and out of existence in what's called quantum foam. Like tiny thoughts bubbling at the edge of reality. So the silence between stars isn't perfect. But it's close. It's a kind of stillness that doesn't exist here. A quiet that stretches not across meters, but across light years. Between one sun and the next. Between one galaxy and the next. Imagine standing in a place like that. Imagine nothing rushing past your ears. No wind, no breath, no ground, just the slow turning of the void. Somewhere a star might flare. Somewhere a comet might fall. But not here. Not now. Here there is only quiet. Only the black. Only time. And maybe, if you wait long enough, you'll begin to hear the sound of your own thoughts. Stretching. Uncoiling. Drifting. Because when the world grows quiet, the mind begins to speak. And that too is part of the science. The psychology of silence. The way our brains change when the noise fades. In deep space, there are no footsteps, no echoes, no voices, only a kind of gentle suspension. A lullaby made not of melody, but of everything that's been left unsaid. Close your eyes if you haven't already. Take a long, soft breath, the kind that makes your shoulders relax, the kind that tells your body it can stop trying. There's nothing to hear out there, no one to impress, no answer waiting to be shouted back. Only silence, the kind that holds the stars together, the kind that has always been, and always will be. What does it mean for something to be empty? When we say space is a vacuum, we imagine a hollow nothing, a perfect void, a great black silence where nothing exists at all. But nature rarely deals in absolutes. Even in the coldest, loneliest corners of the cosmos, there is something. A vacuum in science doesn't mean nothing. It means less than usual. Fewer particles, lower pressure, thinner air or no air at all. Out past our sky, past the blue that fades to indigo, space begins, and with it the thinning of matter. Even just above Earth's surface, the air becomes too thin to carry sound, too light to press against your skin. Go higher above the thermosphere, above the exosphere, and the particles are scattered like lost whispers, 10, maybe 20, in every cubic centimeter. And farther still, past the grip of gravity, past the warmth of sunlight, you find what we call interstellar space. Here the distance between atoms can be measured in kilometers. A few lonely hydrogen atoms adrift in an ocean of near nothing. But it is not empty. It is not dead. In this sparse stillness, things still move. Photons still travel. Magnetic fields stretch. Tiny particles left over from the birth of the universe still drift, untouched, unseen, unbothered. In 2023, scientists using the ALMA radio telescope detected complex organic molecules in a gas cloud light years away. No planet nearby, no sun, just a floating wisp of carbon and silence. Even the quietest places hum. If you know how to listen. The space between stars is full of these invisible presences. Charged particles from old supernovas, electromagnetic waves from distant pulsars, gravitational ripples too faint for the body to feel, but strong enough to shake space itself. It's a silence that isn't silence at all. It's a background murmur, a texture, like holding a shell to your ear, and hearing not the ocean, but the memory of it. If you were to float there, somewhere between Alpha Centauri and the next star over, you wouldn't hear anything. Not in the way we understand hearing. But your instruments might. A Geiger counter would crackle faintly. A radio dish would twitch towards signals too weak to decode. Your senses would trace heat left over from the Big Bang. A gentle, ancient warmth, barely above absolute zero. There's a kind of poetry in that that even the emptiest parts of the universe still remember their beginning. They still carry the echoes of creation. So no, the vacuum is not clean. It's cluttered with time, layered with history, filled with particles that drift without purpose. But with perfect silence, you may never stand in such a place. No ship may ever carry you so far, but your mind can. And in the space between your thoughts, in the pause between one breath and the next, you can visit it. Close your eyes, not to escape the world, but to feel it more fully, to imagine a silence so large it holds entire galaxies in its stillness, to understand that silence is not the end of sound, but the cradle from which it came. Light doesn't need permission. It doesn't ask. It doesn't wait. It moves, even when no one is there to see it, even when no one is left to name it. In the deep quiet between stars, light travels on, alone, unbothered, a line drawn through darkness. It has no need for air, no need for sound. It simply goes, at the only speed it knows, 300,000 kilometers every second, fast enough to circle the Earth 7 times in a blink, fast enough to cross the space between the Moon and Earth in a breath. And yet, slow, so slow in the face of the cosmos, because stars are not close. They only seem close, because we see them all at once. But in truth, their light may have left before you were born, before this planet had phones, or planes, or memory. The nearest star system, Alpha Centauri, is 4 light years away. The light you see from it tonight, if you look, if you're lucky, is 4 years old. Others are older. Vega perhaps 25 years. Betelgeuse 600 years. And some stars, their light began its journey before pyramids were stone. And yet, they arrive in silence. Light has no voice. It does not hum or ring. Its presence is quiet. Its passage invisible, until it touches something. A surface, an eye, a lens. Then suddenly it becomes color. It becomes heat. It becomes knowledge. The whole of astronomy is built on this silent stream. Telescopes don't listen. They watch. And what they see is time itself. When we observe a distant galaxy, we are not seeing it as it is. We are seeing it as it was. A mirror of the past, delivered on waves of light that never slowed down, never asked for applause. In 2024, the James Webb Space Telescope captured the most distant galaxy ever recorded, over 13 billion light-years away. That light began its journey when the universe was young, still forming its first stars, still warm from its own birth. It crossed voids so wide, it passed entire lifetimes of stars, and fell finally into our hands. Quietly, faithfully. Imagine that. Imagine a beam of light, traveling for billions of years, just to meet you. Here, not with a bang, not with a roar, but with the faintest kiss on a mirror, the softest dot in a photograph, a flicker in a data stream. And we read it, we name it, we learn from it. Boo! The light doesn't care. It never did. It simply moved. And in its motion, the silence endured. So tonight, as you rest, know this: even in darkness, Something may be crossing toward you. Something soft, something slow, something brilliant. That makes no sound. Let it arrive. Let it land gently in your thoughts. A single photon, a little piece of time, a message from a faraway place. That says nothing at all, and yet means everything. Not all silence is the same. Some silences are small. A library at dusk, a field after snow, the space between two held breaths. And some are enormous, like the silence that begins just beyond the skin of our world. Earth holds sound close. It wraps it in oceans and atmosphere, in birdsong and thunder, in the low, invisible pulse of tectonic plates beneath your feet. But the moment you leave, the moment you rise past the blue sky and the thinning wisps of air above it, sound begins to vanish, one layer at a time. The mesosphere grows cold and still. The thermosphere glows with sunlight but speaks nothing. And the exosphere, so fragile it barely exists, is the last breath before the silence begins. There, above it all, sound dies completely, and space begins. It's not sudden. It's not dramatic. Just quiet. Imagine leaving Earth in a small vessel, rising higher, watching cities blur to landscapes, then to oceans, then to nothing, until all that's left is the curve of a planet below you and the yawning dark above. Now imagine moving through that dark, past the moon, so near, so pale, but utterly silent, past the orbit of Mars, where dust storms rage with no sound, and canyons stretch without echo. Outward still, to Jupiter, massive, majestic, covered in storm. The great red spot, a cyclone larger than Earth, spins for centuries, but it makes no sound. Not because it isn't loud, but because there is nothing to carry the roar. No air, no ear, only the silent swirl of color and gas. Farther yet, to Saturn, its rings like whispers turned solid. To Uranus, where storms tilt sideways. To Neptune, where winds scream faster than sound could even keep up. But no one hears. In 2025, a probe orbiting Saturn's moon Titan recorded pressure waves in the upper atmosphere, a kind of thrum in the clouds. Scientists converted them into audio, and when played on Earth, they made a long, low tone, like the distant breath of a sleeping giant. But up there, in the moment, nothing, not even a hush. The sound was always here, waiting to be translated, like Braille for the mind. So much of space is like that. Things move, things rage, but in ways we can't feel, unless we turn them into something else. Light into image, vibration into sound, silence into thought. Even the solar wind, that great golden stream of particles from the sun, flows endlessly outward, through every planet, every field, every corner of our system. It presses against magnetic fields. It dances with auroras. It bends and curves and stirs. But it says nothing. The silence between the planets is filled with motion, but no noise. And that's what makes it strange. You might expect nothing. Stillness, peace, but it's not empty. It's alive with quiet energy. And as you drift through it, in thought, in imagination, you begin to understand. Silence is what happens when everything stops. It's what happens when everything moves, but nothing needs to explain itself. What would it feel like to be there? Not in a ship, not behind glass, but floating, just you and the dark, enclosed in a suit, tethered to nothing, your body suspended in the infinite. No up, no down, no breeze against your skin, no ground beneath your feet, only the quiet pull of your own breath, moving slow inside your chest, only the pressure of fabric and seals, pressing gently against your limbs, like the memory of being held. Would it be frightening? Perhaps, but perhaps not. There's no noise here, no crowd, no urgency, just the stars, thousands, millions, scattered like frost on a black window, and the Earth's, a curved jewel behind you, spinning in silence. You can't hear it, but you can feel that it's alive. Everything that was loud is behind you now. All the voices, all the alarms, all the gravity. What remains is strange, but not empty, because even in silence, the body remembers sound. In deep space, if you touch your glove to your helmet, you'd feel the vibration, not through the air, but through your bones, a voice inside your head, speaking only to you, not in words, but in pulses, in weight. Your heartbeat becomes louder, your breath more noticeable. The quiet turns inward, and it reveals you to yourself. There is no echo here, no reflection, only starlight and time. And yet, you are still connected to the universe around you. Cosmic rays pass through you. Microscopic particles from distant galaxies drift invisibly across your chest. Some of them began their journey before you. Our species was born. Now they meet you. In this moment, in this stillness, you are not alone. You are surrounded, but not in a way that makes demands. In 2024, astronauts aboard the ISS spoke about the psychological weight of silence. How, in those long moments between communication, the mind begins to stretch. It reaches for meaning. It fills the void with memory, with wonder, with quiet fear, and quiet joy. Some say it's like meditation. Some say it's like dreaming. And some say it feels like coming home, to a home you forgot, because the body knows something that words do not. That stillness is not absence. That silence is a kind of answer, not to every question, but to the question we carry when everything else has been taken away. What am I without noise? The stars don't answer. They never have, but their silence has always been enough. So rest now, wherever you are. Breathe in. Let the weight of the day dissolve. You don't have to float in space to feel it's quiet. You only have to stop moving long enough to remember what silence really is. A room between thoughts. A pause between stars. It's 1977, a warm September, and on a launch pad in Florida, a spacecraft waits beneath a morning sky. It is small, unmanned, thin like a silver dragonfly, delicate, quiet, precise. Its name is Voyager 1, and it is about to leave home. No humans aboard. No footsteps to mark the journey. Just circuitry, antennae, a camera, and a single golden record fastened to its side. A message pressed into metal for no one in particular. Inside that record are the sounds of Earth. Waves, thunder, a baby crying, a kiss, greetings in 55 languages, songs from Senegal to Bach, a pulsar map etched into the gold, pointing back toward our sun, and etched on the cover, a gentle, almost hopeful instruction. To the makers of music, all worlds, all times. Voyager launched through clouds and rose silently into the vacuum. It passed Mars, then Jupiter, then Saturn. It photographed their moons with calm precision. It sent back images we'd never seen. Swirling storms, volcanic plumes, the pale arcs of planetary rings. And all the while, the golden record waited, not to be played, but to be carried out of orbit, out of context, into the silence between stars. In 2012, Voyager 1 crossed a boundary, a soft, invisible edge known as the heliopause, where the sun's wind no longer rules. It entered interstellar space, the first human-made object to do so, and still, it drifts, silently, blindly. It carries no propulsion, only momentum. It does not steer, it does not brake. It will continue on, for thousands, millions of years, through regions of space no light has touched for eons, through voids so vast they make oceans seem shallow. And yet, it hums, not with sound, but with purpose. Its instruments are still faintly alive, measuring magnetic fields, cosmic rays, the shape of the void itself. In 2023, engineers worked long hours to correct a memory fault in Voyager's computer, over 15 billion miles away. The signal took 22 hours to arrive, then 22 hours to return. And when it did, it answered, still here, still moving, still listening. There's something almost sacred in that among the billions of stars, one tiny machine, built by hands on a blue planet, continues to whisper back, not loudly, not clearly, but just enough to remind us we are not forgotten in the dark. We placed that record on a craft that would never return, knowing it might never be found. And we did it anyway, because silence doesn't mean hopelessness. It means possibility. Somewhere, someday, in some other system, a quiet intelligence might find that disk, and they might hear what we were, what we hoped, what we sang, or maybe not. Maybe no one will ever find it. Maybe Voyager will drift forever, a bottle in a black ocean. And maybe that's enough, because it meant something to send it, to speak into the void, with no guarantee of reply, to say, we were here, we thought about you, even when we didn't know who you were. That too is part of the silence between stars, not just the emptiness, but the quiet hope woven inside it. Long before Voyager, before planets, before stars, there was a different kind of silence. Not absence, not peace, but a silence waiting to begin. And then, a breathless moment of becoming. Not an explosion, as fireworks are explosions, but an unfolding, a rapid expansion of everything. From nothing, everywhere, all at once. We call it the Big Bang, but it made no sound. There was nothing to carry it. No air, no space, no time, just energy, pouring into being. A bright, wordless birth that filled the void with light. And then, coolness, stretching, formation, atoms coming together, hydrogen, helium, the building blocks of stars, floating in silence for hundreds of millions of years, before anything would shine. But the moment of birth, that first unfolding, left behind a trace, a signal, a whisper of heat that never fully faded. We call it the cosmic microwave background, the CMB. It is the afterglow of the beginning, and it is still here, all around you, all around everything, in every direction, in every part of the sky. There is a soft glow, not in light your eyes can see, but in wavelengths as long as a hand, as cool as 2.7 degrees above absolute zero. A nearly perfect silence, but not quite. In 1964, two radio engineers, Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson, detected a faint, persistent noise in their telescope at Bell Labs. They thought it was pigeon droppings, but it was the sound of the universe remembering itself. The CMB became a map, a baby photo of everything. Faint variations in temperature, microscopic ripples, the earliest fingerprints of what would become galaxies, stars. In 2024, data from the Planck satellite confirmed once again the shape of this ancient light. Still uniform, still humming, still stretching. As space itself expands, you can't hear it, but it surrounds you, washing over Earth every second of every day. A soft cosmic static, older than any story. So quiet, and yet so complete. Sometimes, when you tune an old television to a channel that doesn't exist, you'll see a soft flicker of white and black. That's snow, that's static. A tiny portion of that pattern is the CMB, a whisper from the beginning of time, falling onto your eyes like ash. Not enough to notice, but enough to be there. Imagine that, even in the deepest sleep, even in the most silent room, even in the empty distance between stars, you are wrapped in the echo of creation. The universe does not speak loudly. It doesn't need to. It spoke once, long ago, and that one sound is still arriving. Imagine standing at the edge of the sun's breath, out beyond the planets, past Pluto, past the Kuiper Belt, past even Voyager, still gliding on its ancient path. Here lies a boundary invisible to the eye, but deep, profound. The heliopause, where the pressure of the sun's wind, pushed outward for billions of kilometers, finally gives way. Beyond it begins a space not shaped by our star, not warmed by its touch, not tethered to its rhythms. This is interstellar space, the space between stars. Vast, sparse, unimaginably quiet. It's not a perfect void, but close. A single atom may drift alone for kilometers. Photons travel without interruption. Light takes years to cross the distance from one point of gravity to the next. Imagine that distance. The nearest star to our Sun, Proxima Centauri, is over 4 light-years away. That's nearly 40 trillion kilometers. A number so large, you stop feeling it. If Earth were the size of a grain of sand, Proxima Centauri would still be hundreds of kilometers away. Now imagine that gap, not just between one star and the next, but between every star in the galaxy, like fireflies blinking in a canyon, each one alone in its own patch of dark. Here in interstellar space, no planet orbits, no satellite spins, no sound travels, yet it's not empty. Cosmic rays drift here, high-energy particles from old explosions, carrying memories of long-dead stars. There are clouds of cold hydrogen, thinner than any mist on Earth, older than language. There are magnetic fields, twisting like threads through the dark. In 2023, the Interstellar Mapping and Acceleration Probe, IMAP, prepared to launch, a mission built to measure the shape of this quiet, to map what lies just outside, the warmth of our solar system, to feel gently the tension in the void. What scientists hope to find is not noise, but texture. Even silence has layers. Pressure, density, temperature just above nothing. Interstellar space is not peaceful in the way a forest is peaceful. It is peaceful in the way a glacier is peaceful. Slow, relentless, unbothered. If you were floating there, no light pollution, no atmosphere, no sound, just you and the dark, you might begin to feel something strange. Not fear, not quite awe, something quieter. The sense that you are small, but not forgotten. Because even here, so far from home, you are part of something. You are made of the same elements as those distant stars, forged in their fire, carried here by time. You are not an intruder. You are a continuation. And this silence, this immense, indifferent space, doesn't push you away. It simply holds you, steady, suspended, until you are ready to drift again. You've crossed the space between stars. Now keep going. Farther still, past the Milky Way's spiral arms, past its halo of dark matter and lonely stars, out beyond the reach of its gravity. And now, you find yourself in a place almost no one thinks about. Intergalactic space. The space between galaxies. A quiet so complete, it feels like time itself holds its breath. If the silence between stars is a still lake, then this is an ocean of stillness with no shore. The Milky Way is just one galaxy, a city of stars, a glowing whirlpool of light. But it is not alone. It belongs to a small group, the local group, which includes Andromeda, Triangulum, and a few dozen smaller galaxies, drifting gently together. Yet between them, hundreds of thousands of light-years stretch. Dark space, cold space, silent space. This is not the silence of calm, not the silence of sleep. This is the silence of distance, a distance so great, even light hesitates, even gravity takes its time. Here in intergalactic space, matter is rare. A few hydrogen atoms per cubic meter. Maybe some rogue stars, drifting unclaimed. Maybe a lonely black hole, moving slowly, with no galaxy to call home. There are no planets here, no suns, only the weak light of galaxies far away, like lanterns across a dark plain. In 2024, deep field images from the James Webb Telescope revealed faint, ancient galaxies, billions of light years away. Some smaller than a pixel, but they are there. Each one a swirl of billions of stars, each one shining in the dark. And between them, nothing visible, but something real. Dark matter, the scaffolding of the cosmos. Invisible, silent, and everywhere. It does not shine, it does not speak, but it shapes everything. Even silence needs a framework. And floating through this expanse, if you could somehow be there, in a suit, in a shell, in your imagination, you might look in every direction and see almost nothing, and yet feel everything. Because here, the universe is not full of noise. It is full of presence, a soft, immense waiting. No messages, no warnings, no footnotes, just stars, scattered across time, like sparks from a long-forgotten fire. Here in the space between galaxies, there is no center, no edge, only motion without sound, expansion without urgency. Even now, the galaxies drift apart. The universe continues to stretch. And every day, this silence grows a little deeper, a little wider. It's not empty. It's just not speaking loudly. So let your thoughts go quiet. Let your breath soften. You are not lost. You are floating in the quiet that holds all things. The universe moves. It spins. It burns. It collapses and collides. But almost none of it makes a sound. Not because it is still, but because it cannot speak in the ways we understand. Let's return for a moment to the planets, to the worlds that orbit stars, like dancers in a slow celestial waltz. Each one unique, each one restless. Take Jupiter, the largest planet in our solar system. A storm swirls across its surface. The great red spot, larger than Earth, spinning for over 300 years. It should be thunderous. It should roar. But Jupiter lives in silence. Its atmosphere, thick with gas, has no one to carry the sound beyond itself. No one to hear. Then Saturn, with rings that stretch out like whispers. Billions of icy particles, moving in elegant circles, colliding gently, endlessly, no sound. And the rocky worlds, Mars dry and cold, its winds strong enough to carve stone. Venus hot and hostile, with atmospheric pressure so thick, it could crush a human body in seconds. Still no one hears, because sound, as we know it, is fragile. It needs air. It needs water. It needs something to travel through, and something to arrive at. But planets don't need ears. They don't care to be heard. Even Earth, loud and full of life, is quiet when seen from space. The Apollo astronauts spoke of this, how the Earth, so vibrant and wild below, seemed to float in complete stillness. A blue marble, glowing, humming with unspoken life, but absolutely silent. And what of stars? They are not gentle. They are massive fusion engines, burning hydrogen into helium, releasing unimaginable energy. Every moment, the sun produces more explosions per second than all of human history combined. But from space, it says nothing. In 2025, researchers studying stellar vibrations used a technique called asteroseismology, a way of reading starquakes through changes in brightness. We cannot hear stars, but we can measure how they shake, how they pulse, how their surfaces ripple like water. Some stars oscillate in patterns so regular, so delicate. It's like listening to a musical chord played across the fabric of time. And still, we hear nothing directly, because the universe doesn't speak with air. It speaks with light, with motion, with radiation. It sends signals, not to ears, but to instruments, and we translate them into graphs, into tones, into meaning. That's what makes it beautiful. The stars do not need us, but we listen anyway. We give silence a shape. We give vibration a voice. And in doing so, we learn to feel what cannot be heard, to read the wind on Mars, to sense the echo of a sun we'll never touch. So next time you gaze at the night sky, know that every star you see is roaring in its own language. And yet, you stand in the quiet. You, with your soft breath, with your thoughts beginning to slow, with the weight of the day slipping away. Like dust in water, the silence is not empty. It is full of motion. That does not need to explain itself. There is a kind of silence that feels heavy, dense, complete. A silence not made of emptiness, but of gravity. Let's drift now to the strangest quiet place we know. The black hole, a region in space where gravity has collapsed everything inward, where even light, that tireless traveler, cannot escape. A black hole has no surface, no sound, no color, only an edge, a soft boundary called the event horizon. Once something crosses it, it does not return. Not light, not time, not voice. From the outside, it appears frozen, still, trapped in a moment of falling forever. But on the inside, there may be no inside, only descent, endless, invisible, and perfectly quiet. You might imagine a black hole as loud, a howling vacuum, a cosmic drain, but it is not. It does not roar. It does not scream. It absorbs even the vibrations around it, the swirl of gas and dust, the violent heat of matter being pulled in, fade once they cross that invisible line, as if the black hole erases more than just mass, as if it swallows experience. What happens inside? No one knows, and perhaps we're not meant to. In 2019, the Event Horizon Telescope gave us our first image of a black hole's shadow, a ring of golden light surrounding a perfect void. It was not a photo of the black hole itself. That's impossible. It was a portrait of where light stopped, a picture of silence. In 2023, updated data revealed more detail: how the magnetic fields around black holes twist, how they funnel matter into jets that stretch across galaxies. Even now, supermassive black holes live at the heart of almost every galaxy, including our own. They do not destroy their homes. They help shape them, invisible anchors around which stars are born and die. Silence, it seems, can be creative. It can give form to entire galaxies. And if you could float near one, not too near, not beyond the horizon, you might feel something deeper than fear. A stillness that feels final, not hostile, just absolute. The end of questions, not an answer, but the place beyond asking. And that, too, is a kind of comfort. The universe does not need to explain its mysteries. It simply holds them, quietly, and in that hush, the hush of a black hole, we are reminded that some truths do not need to be heard to be real. They simply are. And we, in our quiet orbit of curiosity, are allowed to wonder. Softly, without reply, let's return now to something closer, more familiar, yet still mysterious. Earth. From here, we know it as loud, alive with wind, waves, footsteps, and breath. But step away, out beyond the atmosphere, and listen differently, not with ears, but with instruments. Because in space, even Earth makes sound, not through air, but through fields, magnetic fields, electric pulses, waves in plasma, invisible symphonies we didn't even know were there, until we built tools that could hear without listening. In the 2010s, NASA launched a mission called Van Allen probes to study the charged particles trapped in Earth's magnetic shield. What they found was music, translated from radiation and magnetic waveforms. Earth produces tones, haunting, beautiful, a chorus of chirps, rising whistles, long echoing sighs. They called it the chorus. Not metaphor, not poetry, actual data, converted into sound. The voice of our planet, speaking not in words, but in rhythms. Sometimes it sounds like birds, sometimes like distant flutes. Always gentle, always strange. You can listen to it if you'd like. It's freely available. Just a recording of the Earth, singing to itself. In space. In 2024, a low-orbit satellite detected new magnetic interactions between solar storms and the ionosphere. The data produced a pattern, soft, slow pulses, like breath caught between two lungs. It reminds us, sound is not limited to ears. Silence is not always what it seems. Because Earth never stopped speaking. We simply didn't know how to listen. The auroras, those green ribbons that dance across polar skies, are born from collisions of charged particles and magnetic fields. They too sing, not in a way we can hear directly, but their patterns, when read with care, form songs of motion. If you could float just above Earth, beyond the drag of air, you'd hear nothing, yet feel everything. The hum of the planet's magnetic heartbeat, the vibration of its skin, the low rumble of a world spinning in the dark. And it wouldn't be loud, it wouldn't be bright, It would be like a memory or a dream, a shape in the silence that feels familiar, even if you can't name it. And as you drift above it all, cradled by gravity, surrounded by stars, you might come to understand something quiet. That Earth is not separate from the universe. It does not sit beneath the cosmos like a stage. It is part of it, an instrument in the orchestra, a note in the song. Even here, in the silence between stars, your home has a voice. You just have to slow down enough to feel it. You are not alone. Even now, even here in the stillness, because every moment of your life, as you sleep, as you breathe, as you listen, something is passing through you. Not wind, not air, but particles, billions of them, maybe more. They are called neutrinos, ghost particles. They have no charge, almost no mass, and almost no interaction with anything at all. They pass through planets, as if planets weren't there, through walls, through oceans, through stars, and through you. Right now, they are born in the heart of the sun, in nuclear reactions, in collapsing stars, and in the remnants of the Big Bang. And they do not make a sound. There is no friction, no echo, no trace, except the faintest possibility that one will bump into an atom and leave a whisper behind. In 2018, the IceCube Neutrino Observatory in Antarctica detected one such whisper, buried deep beneath the South Pole. It listens not with microphones, but with light sensors, planted in ancient ice. And one day, a flash appeared. A neutrino had collided with a molecule of water, just one, from a galaxy far away. It had traveled for millions of years. It had passed through clusters of stars, intergalactic dark, cosmic voids, and still, it arrived, quietly, perfectly, undetected by everything else, except one detector. In one moment, there is something sacred about that even in the stillest corners of existence, something is moving, something is coming through. We also know of dark matter, another silent presence. We cannot see it, we cannot hear it, but we know it's there. Its gravity shapes galaxies. It holds stars in their spiral arms. It curves light like water curves glass. And it does all of this without speaking. There is a storm passing through you, but it leaves no wind, no sound. You are being touched by particles older than Earth, from events too distant to imagine. And your body doesn't notice. Your skin doesn't feel it. But on some quiet level, you are part of a current that never stops. Not chaos, not danger, just motion, stillness, filled with motion. A paradox, like so much of the universe, that the most silent things are the most full. That emptiness is never truly empty. That the space between stars is never truly still. And you are not separate from it. You are made of particles too. You are full of tiny atoms, forged in stars, and stirred by this silent wind. So when you lie down to rest, and all the world seems quiet, remember, there are galaxies moving inside you. There are storms passing through you. with no sound at all. And still, you are here, still and vast. Is there such a thing as perfect silence? Not just the hush between words, or the quiet of a sleeping room, but a true and total stillness. No sound, no motion, no presence. The kind of silence people imagine at the end of time, or deep in space, or within themselves. We like to believe in it, to picture the void as empty and peaceful, unmoving, unchanging, final. But even in the most silent places we know, the vacuum between galaxies, the spaces between atoms, something always flickers, something always moves. Quantum physics tells us that even when we remove all matter, all heat, all light, the vacuum never rests. Particles appear and disappear, with no warning, no cause. Virtual particles, borrowing energy from the nothing. It's called quantum fluctuation, and it happens everywhere. Even in the darkest corner of the universe, particles tremble into being and vanish before they can be seen. A kind of cosmic static, a shimmer beneath the silence, the background breath of existence. So even in the places we once thought empty, there is always something, a hum behind the hush, a dance beneath the stillness. Physicists call this vacuum energy. It may be the very thing that drives the expansion of the universe, the slow stretching of space that continues even now, with no sound, no light, no center. Some believe it could explain dark energy, the force accelerating the spread of galaxies. Not an explosion, but a gentle, persistent push from the quietest place imaginable. And what about you? Even when you are still, are you silent? Your heart continues to beat. Your thoughts murmur beneath the quiet. Your cells shift and divide. Atoms vibrate. Neurons fire. You may lie still in the dark, thinking you are at rest. But even then, you are full of motion, full of quiet energy that never truly stops. So perhaps perfect silence is an illusion, a comforting one, but not a real one. Perhaps the universe has always preferred a little noise, a little flicker, a ripple in the still water. And that's okay. Silence doesn't need to be perfect, to be beautiful. It just needs to be soft and slow and full of space for thought to drift, for wonder to echo. Tonight, as you breathe, as you feel the warmth of the bed beneath you, know this: even if you could travel to the farthest, coldest void, you would not find nothing. You would find the fabric of reality, still humming, still shimmering, still trying, like the quiet hope between heartbeats, like the pause before a dream begins. Space seems silent, but only to our ears, because not all sound is made for us. Not all voices travel in air, and not all music needs strings or breath. There is a kind of noise in space that moves differently, not as vibration, but as radio waves, invisible, long, slow, pouring endlessly from stars, pulsars, black holes, and galaxies. We cannot hear them directly, but we can catch them. decode them, transform them into something we can understand. In 1932, a man named Karl Jansky built a strange, rotating antenna to track lightning storms. But what he found was a soft hiss, repeating every 23 hours and 56 minutes. It matched the rotation of the stars. It was the first recorded signal from the Milky Way. Since then, we've learned to listen better, to build vast dishes, in deserts, on mountaintops, in quiet forests, each one tilted gently toward the sky. Waiting. What we hear is a universe that is not silent, but full of signals, full of static, full of rhythms that stretch across time and space. Pulsars, the spinning corpses of massive stars, send out beams of radio energy. Like lighthouse beams, they tick like perfect clocks, some hundreds of times per second. Their signals reach us like a heartbeat from the other side of the galaxy. Quasars, bright galaxies with black holes at their core, scream in radio wavelengths. Their voices are too vast to measure in notes, too old to call new. And yet, they arrive. We turn these signals into sound, into music, into meaning. A hiss becomes wind. A pulse becomes percussion. A ripple becomes a breath. In 2023, a Canadian telescope called CHIME picked up dozens of strange bursts, short, sharp flashes of radio energy from far beyond our galaxy. They're called fast radio bursts. No one knows exactly what causes them, but they are real, and they are loud, not in air, but in data. The cosmos does not care if we have ears. It speaks in wavelengths, in rhythms, in pulses we were never meant to hear, but learned to read anyway. We built the language backwards, from silence to signal to song, and now we hear what the universe has always been saying. Not with words, not with answers, but with presence. You don't need to understand what every radio wave means. You only need to know they are still coming, even now, even as you lie here, letting your thoughts dissolve, even as your breath slows and the day falls away. The sky is alive with quiet messages, not for you, but around you, like stars humming to each other across a great dark sea, and you floating between them, safe, silent, still, just listening. How long is a moment? A minute? An hour? A night spent drifting between dreams. Now imagine a year, a century, 1,000, and now imagine 1,000,000,000 years. Not as a number, but as a feeling, a stretch of time so vast that mountains would rise and vanish. Stars would be born, live full lives, and die. Galaxies would drift apart, like ash on the wind. That's what the silence between stars is made of. Not just distance, but time. Deep time, quiet time. The kind that doesn't tick. The kind that forgets your name, but remembers your atoms. We live inside a blink, one breath in the life of the cosmos. And yet, we reach out, we look up, we wonder, and sometimes we feel a strange ache. a loneliness that isn't quite human. It's something older, something slower, the awareness that we are surrounded by beauty that will never speak. Galaxies will never touch, stars will never see, worlds will never walk. Even now, somewhere out there, a planet might be circling a gentle sun, its surface kissed by rain, its skies filled with strange birds or clouds. And we'll never know, not because we don't care, but because time is too long, light is too slow, and silence stretches between us like a veil. There is a quiet truth in all of this, that the universe is not made for us, and yet it allows us. It holds us without recognition, without intention. It doesn't need to say anything. It simply is. And we, brief flickering feeling, we witness it. And maybe that's enough. In 2025, astronomers announced the discovery of a star older than the Milky Way. Its light took over 13 billion years to reach us. It was already ancient. When our sun was still dust, it shines still, quietly, patiently, and now you've seen it in an image, on a screen, a silent beam of memory falling into your eyes. There is loneliness in that, but not sorrow, not despair. It's the kind of loneliness you feel standing beneath a vast sky, realizing how small you are and how much that smallness means. Because then a whisper matters. If it travels far enough, even a single mind, thinking gently in the dark, can be part of something eternal. So rest here. Let the loneliness wrap around you like a soft blanket. Not emptiness, but space. Room for you to breathe, to dream, to float. This is what the stars have always offered. Not answers, not stories, but stillness, and the reminder that you are not apart from the universe. You are inside it, made of it, and that the silence you feel is not empty at all. Every story ends, even this one, even the stars, not in fire, not in collapse, but in something much quieter, a slow, patient fading. The universe is still young, by its own measure, but it is growing older. With every breath you take, galaxies stretch farther apart. Stars use up their fuel. The energy thins, like fog lifting from a cold field. Someday, not soon, but someday, there will be no more bright stars, no more fire in the sky, only remnants, white dwarfs cooling in the dark, black holes waiting in silence, dust drifting through vast, empty rooms, where galaxies once bloomed. This distant future is called the heat death of the universe, not a sudden ending, but an unraveling, a soft erasure. Every reaction slows, every system settles, all differences in temperature, pressure, movement fade until everything is the same. Cold, still, even. Entropy has reached its final breath. Nothing more can happen. Nothing new can form. Just silence. Not the silence of rest. The silence of completion. A blanket drawn over the cosmos. Not cruel. Not kind. Just final. And still, there may be echoes. Black holes. The last great engines of gravity will shrink, evaporate, their final whisper, a flicker of radiation. Before they too are gone, what remains? Not even dust, perhaps only particles, so far apart, they will never meet again. A sky with no light, a void with no warmth, a time without time. It sounds sad, but sadness is a human shape we place upon the unknown. The universe is not sad. It does not mourn. It simply ends, quietly, like a candle that burns out, because it was meant to. And you, who are here, now, in this bright, breathing sliver of time, you are lucky, because you live in the golden moment, the spark in the middle of the story, the chapter where stars still sing, and earth still turns, and thought still rises like mist above the warm skin of the world. There is meaning in that, even if it fades, even if no one remembers it, even if it ends in silence, because silence is not the enemy of meaning. It is where meaning rests, where it lingers, long after the words are gone. So tonight, as you lie still, and your thoughts begin to dissolve, know that the universe, for now, is still alive with light, and you are part of that light. A flicker, a breath, a soft moment between the silence before and the silence after. And for now, that is enough. There is a kind of silence that doesn't come from the world. It comes from within, the kind that settles behind your thoughts, like soft rain behind a window. Not absence, but clarity. In the same way the stars shine brightest, when the sky is darkest, our minds become most alive. When the world grows quiet, the silence between stars is not just out there. It lives in you too. That wide, still space, where nothing presses, where nothing rushes, where everything is allowed to drift. We often search for meaning in words, in stories, in sound, but sometimes meaning arrives when nothing is said, when we lie down in darkness and let go of the noise, the lists, the worries, the trying, and we just listen. To what exactly? To the hum behind thinking, to the pause between memories, to the soft rhythm of breath, and the quiet flicker of being. It's the same listening scientists do when they point a radio dish at a starless patch of sky and wait, not for a signal, but for what a signal would mean. A reply, a presence, a confirmation that we are not alone. We build entire instruments to listen to the universe, but we rarely listen to the quiet universe inside us. And yet, they are not so different. Your mind is full of motion. Thoughts arise, fade, drift like clouds. Memories orbit you, like distant moons. Emotions pass through, like comets, brief, bright, and gone. But between them, stillness, just as galaxies swirl through vast corridors of dark. Your thoughts swirl through inner space, and between every idea, there is a space of rest, a silence that gives shape to everything else. Without silence, there would be no rhythm. Without pause, no meaning. The universe has known this. From the beginning, it sings in pulses. It blooms in intervals. It expands into spaces. It makes for itself. And in the same way, you grow in the quiet. You recover in the silence. You remember who you are when the noise stops. So as you lie here, gently fading towards sleep, let that silence expand. Let your thoughts drift wide. Like stars pulling apart in slow motion. Let yourself be quiet, without needing to fill it. You are not lost. You are floating in something ancient and whole. The silence between stars is not empty. It is full of room to become. Some stories do not end. They drift. They slow. They soften into the quiet they came from. And this one, the silence between stars, was never meant to close like a book. It was meant to stay open. A sky, not a sentence. Because silence isn't a question to be answered. It's a space to be felt. You've traveled far, not in distance, but in stillness. From the quiet above Earth, to the hush between galaxies, to the ghost particles passing through your breath, to the distant hum left by creation itself. You have floated beside Voyager, where light grows thin and cold. You've stood at the edge of black holes, where even time surrenders its shape. And all along the way, there has been no noise, only motion, only presence, only the deep, slow knowing that the universe moves without ever raising its voice. Now, let it all go, not because it isn't true, but because truth doesn't need to be held tightly. Let it dissolve, like starlight on water. There is nothing more to see, nothing more to hear. Only this, the soft weight of gravity, cradling your body, the slow rhythm of your chest rising and falling, the faint feeling that something greater holds you. Even now, we often think silence is lonely, but perhaps it's the opposite. Perhaps silence is the presence of everything that needs no name. The background pulse of stars being born and stars growing old without ever needing to explain why. And you, this small flickering moment of thought, are part of that. The silence between stars is also within you. You do not need to earn it. You do not need to understand it. You only need to rest inside it. Let your limbs grow heavy. Let your thoughts unravel. There is nothing left to seek. The story is still happening, even as you sleep, even as your breath slows, even as your eyes close and drift. Not everything has to end loudly. Some things end like this: a pause, a hush, a single breath between stars. Not all silence lives in space. Some of it lives inside you, not as absence, but as rhythm, as breath, as the space between thoughts. Your body is not loud, not really, even with its pulses, its digestion, its soft cellular symphonies. You remain mostly unaware of its music, because much of your body's sound is silence. It is the stillness between heartbeats, the gentle pause before a breath returns, the long, slow waves that roll through your nervous system when you begin to fall asleep. Silence is not something that happens when everything stops. It happens when things move in harmony, without resistance, without tension. Right now, your lungs are moving, your heart is ticking, your brain is glowing with electricity. But the silence holds all of it, a framework of quiet, within which the body performs. Scientists studying deep rest have found something beautiful, that in certain brain states, theta waves, delta waves, the mind becomes smooth, not less alive, just less busy, like a calm sea after a storm. And in those states, silence is not absence, it is healing. Your immune system resets, your memory reorganizes, your heart learns a slower language. This silence is not empty, it is active, just beneath sensation. In 2025, researchers discovered new patterns of lymphatic flow in the brain that only happen in sleep. They called it a nightly cleansing, a quiet washing of thought and waste. It's a reminder that stillness is not laziness, it is maintenance. Even your bones, those silent anchors of your form, are in motion. They grow, they shift, they repair, but they never shout. And so, as we travel through the silence between stars, we also begin to recognize the silence between cells, the galaxies inside you, the moments where nothing hurts, nothing pulls, nothing needs, where silence becomes structure, becomes refuge. You don't have to go to space to feel the void. You carry it in your breaths, in the pause between thoughts, in the part of yourself that doesn't speak, but simply is. And that part is not waiting for noise. It's waiting for you to notice it. So lie still. Let the day fall away. Let the weight of being someone soften at the edges. You are not doing nothing. You are holding silence. The same silence that lives between stars. And within them, somewhere on a hill in California, a dish turns toward the stars, not to send, but to listen. It does not know what it will hear, only that something might be there, might whisper back. This is the dream of the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. SETI, a science born of silence, built on the idea that something might answer. For decades, radio telescopes have scanned the sky, not for words, not even for meaning, but for patterns, anomalies, a signal that doesn't belong to stars, RS, or quasars, or galaxies, just something that chooses. The silence we hear from the cosmos is not proof of loneliness. It is the space where questions are planted. And SETI has been asking for a long time. In 1974, a powerful radio signal was sent from the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico. It carried encoded data, simple math, the shape of DNA, a pixelated human form. It was aimed at a cluster of stars, 25,000 light years away. It will take 25,000 years to get there, and another 25,000 to return. If anyone is listening, if they choose to answer. And yet, we sent it, not for results, but for meaning. In 2023, a new array of dishes in South Africa, began scanning deeper sky than ever before. Faster computers, smarter algorithms, but the silence remains. Some call it the Great Silence, others the cosmic waiting room. But maybe it is neither. Maybe it is just the natural stillness of a very large place. Maybe it takes time for a voice to rise, and more time for a reply to return. When you send a signal into the dark, you don't do it because you expect an answer. You do it because not sending it would feel worse. This is what SETI represents. Not technology, not science fiction, but faith in the possibility of connection. A gentle belief that somewhere, someone else wonders too. That across the silence, another consciousness sits in its own orbit of curiosity. And perhaps we are already hearing each other, just not in ways we understand. Maybe the reply is coming, not as words, but as gravity, as waves, as presence. And if not, if the silence stretches on forever, then that too is beautiful. Because to listen without guarantee is the most human thing we do. It is how we love, how we wait, how we trust. And in the quiet between stars, where everything moves, but nothing speaks, our listening becomes a kind of offering. We are here, we are wondering, and that is enough. Long before telescopes, before satellites, before formulas, before the word galaxy ever existed, humans looked up and saw silence, and they filled it with stories, because the sky was too vast to be empty, too quiet to be meaningless. The stars did not speak, but they shaped, and so we shaped meaning in return. The Babylonians drew lions and scorpions in the stars. The Greeks stitched together gods and tragedies. The Egyptians aligned pyramids with the rising of Sirius. The Maya tracked Venus like a divine traveler. None of them heard voices, but they heard patterns, cycles, movements that meant something, even if the meaning changed with the wind. The silence above them was not terrifying. It was sacred, a soft dome that watched over crops, wars, births, dreams. In Polynesia, navigators read the stars like maps, not charts on paper, but memories passed by voice, by wave, by song. They moved between islands, guided not by compasses, but by starlight and silence. In that stillness, the sea and sky were not separate. They were one body, one story. And in the far north, under veils of aurora, the Sami people sang to the stars. Joiks they were called, melodies without strict meaning, just sound and feeling, given to the night. These were not primitive beliefs. They were conversations, not with gods, but with mystery. Because silence, when it lingers long enough, asks to be answered. And humans, with their bright, brief hearts, always answer. With poetry, with ritual, with fire and smoke, and whispered names in the dark. In 2024, archaeologists uncovered star maps, carved into the walls of a Neolithic tomb in Portugal. Thousands of years old, still intact, still aligned. still listening. We forget sometimes that science and myth begin in the same place, not in proof, but in wonder. The night sky was never just a backdrop. It was a mirror, a question, a rhythm without sound. And though our telescopes now see deeper than the eye ever could, we still feel what they felt, that the stars, even in silence, are watching, that we are not alone in the dark, not because something else is out there, but because we are here, still asking, still naming, still weaving our small, bright stories into the quiet fabric of sky. So tonight, as you drift towards sleep, you are not just a dreamer. You are a storyteller, one more soul, whispering back to the silence between stars. There is an artist in the dark. It has no brush, no sound, no hands, only pull. It is called gravity, not a thing, but a relation, a way in which all things gently lean toward each other. Without asking, it speaks nothing, yet it sculpts galaxies, not in days, not in years, but over billions of slow, silent rotations. Imagine a painter whose strokes are stretched across time, each line drawn by the soft tug of one mass on another. That is gravity. It is why planets form, why stars are born, why comets curve like question marks through the void. But you do not hear it. You cannot. Gravity has no voice, only motion. And that motion creates everything. The spiral arms of the Milky Way, sweeping outward like frozen rivers. The dance of two black holes, twisting around each other in a slow, invisible waltz. The rise and fall of tides on Earth's shores, a quiet gift from the moon's distant pull. In 2015, for the first time in human history, we heard gravity, not directly, but through a detector, a ripple in spacetime from two colliding black holes, arrived on Earth after traveling for over 1 billion years. It stretched the planet just a little, less than the width of a proton. But we noticed, we recorded, we called it gravitational wave detection. And in that moment, the universe whispered. Even my silence moves. That whisper changed everything. Because now we know. The cosmos is not still. It ripples. It breathes. It bends. But it does not speak. It shapes. Even your body knows gravity. The weight you feel is not something being pressed down. It is the earth reaching up to hold you. You are not being pulled. You are being kept. And when you lie still, in bed, on a couch, in the dark, you are cradled by a force that does not make a sound. It holds mountains to the crust, oceans to the moon, planets to their stars, and you to the surface of your life. You do not have to notice it. It notices you. And that is the beauty of gravity. It says nothing, but it is always there. And perhaps that is what silence is. In the end, not emptiness, not absence, but a presence so constant, so complete, it doesn't need to raise its voice. Let's go smaller now, smaller than stars, smaller than cells, smaller than anything you can see or hold, all the way down to the atom, to the basic structure of everything that is. You might imagine atoms as tiny marbles packed close together, building matter like bricks build walls. But that is quite true. Atoms are mostly space, vast emptiness compared to their size. At the center, a dense nucleus, protons and neutrons bound together by a force stronger than any we feel, and orbiting around that core, a cloud, not of spinning balls, but of probabilities, of electrons not in fixed paths, but in regions where they might be. Not movement like orbits, but the possibility of movement, suspended in quiet. If an atom was scaled up, so that its nucleus was the size of a blueberry, the outer edges of the electron cloud would be several kilometers away. Everything in between. Silence, not soundless, but motionless, not because nothing is there, but because what is there refuses to be pinned down. The solidity of the world, tables, skin, mountains, comes not from atoms being packed together, but from forces preventing them from collapsing. It is resistance, not contact, pressure, not touch, the illusion of closeness, built on invisible standoff. And between every atom, between every proton and electron, silence, not the silence of sleep, the silence of structure. It holds you together without ever making a sound. Even within atoms, quarks dance silently. Even inside quarks, we don't know what lives there. Just more space, more rules, more quiet. In 2025, researchers mapped new electron behaviors in materials cooled near absolute zero. At that temperature, motion slows to almost nothing. Atoms barely twitch. Time stretches. And in that near stillness, electrons began to form shared states, moving together, not by sound, but by agreement. This is how superconductors work. Not with heat, not with pressure, with silence, between motion, with particles so still, they begin to cooperate. And here's the strange part. That emptiness, the silence between atoms, is why you exist. It allows for flexibility, for connection, for light to pass through space, without being stopped. Without that emptiness, your body would collapse, your mind wouldn't form, your breath wouldn't move. It's a reminder that fullness isn't always strength. That silence makes structure possible. And perhaps, just perhaps, the same is true in your life. That the spaces between moments hold more than the moments themselves. That the pauses between words, between thoughts, between stars, are where the meaning gathers. So breathe and remember, you are built from silence, held together by space, and full of things too small to see and too quiet to hear, but always there. Every now and then, something ancient appears in the sky, a glowing trail, a flicker of motion, a whisper from the deep dark, a comet. It does not shout, it does not burn like a star, or pulse like a signal. It moves slowly, quietly, through the solar system, like a messenger who has forgotten its message, but still delivers it anyway. Comets are made of dust, ice, rock, leftovers from the beginning of the solar system, primal debris, unchanged for billions of years. They orbit the sun in long, wide ellipses, some returning every few decades, others not for thousands of years, and some never again. Most of the time, they wander far beyond the planets, invisible, dormant, cold. But when they return, when they begin to fall inward, the sun warms them. They begin to breathe. The ice evaporates, the dust lifts, and a glowing coma forms around them. A head of light. Behind them stretches a tail, sometimes millions of kilometers long, blown not by wind, but by sunlight. And yet, no sound, not even a whisper. Their motion is pure silence, riding on the breath of solar particles. If you stood near one, somewhere in the void between Mars and Jupiter, you would hear nothing. No crackling, no wind, no hiss of ice becoming vapor. Only stillness, a great drifting sculpture of memory, because that's what comets are. Memory made visible. They carry ancient dust, fragments of the early solar nebula. Some even hold the building blocks of life: amino acids, carbon chains, water. They have fallen on planets, changed climates, maybe seeded oceans, and still they say nothing. In 2014, a spacecraft named Rosetta landed on a comet called 67P. It took years to get there. It watched, it measured, it listened, and what it heard was silence. But within that silence was information, patterns, motion, dust older than humanity. Rosetta sent it all back, and then fell asleep forever in the comet's orbit. A machine, cradled by a drifting stone. In the dark, it's still there, floating, silent, and the comet continues its path, as all comets do, wandering, looping, passing briefly through our sky, before vanishing again. Perhaps you've seen one, perhaps not, but they are always out there. Ghosts with tails, carrying ancient cold, through the warm breath of stars. And perhaps, in some strange way, they are the storytellers of the universe. Not with words, not with sound, but with motion. Through silence, a long arc, a bright trail, and then nothing, just the memory of light, where something passed. Time doesn't shout. It does not tick in the sky or boom across space. It moves the way a shadow moves, slowly, inevitably, without edges. And just like silence, we only notice it when it's gone. But time is everywhere. It wears mountains down. It cools stars. It fades galaxies, like old photographs left in sunless drawers. We think of time as a line, a path, forward only. But in truth, it's softer than that. Not a marching drum, but a tide, always flowing, but quietly, unseen. Every atom in your body is aging. Every cell changing shape, with a rhythm you cannot hear. It is the slowest music, and the most certain. Even light is not exempt. Photons stretch as they travel, their wavelengths pulled thin by the expanding universe. This is called redshift, a way of measuring how time has passed for light itself. The farther it travels, the longer its story, the fainter its voice. In 2023, astronomers observed a galaxy whose light had been traveling for over 13 billion years. That light began when time felt different, when stars were just learning to form. Now it falls on your eyes. Soft, changed, older, the past, arriving gently into the present. But time doesn't always move forward the way we think it does. Inside black holes, it may loop on the edges of particles. It may jitter. And in your own life, in memory, it bends. A year can feel like a breath. A moment can stretch forever. And in sleep, time loosens its grip completely. Dreams ignore it. Rest distorts it. Silence dissolves it. Sometimes when you wake, you don't know how long you've been gone. That's not a failure of awareness. It's a gift, because not everything precious can be counted. Not every truth lives in clocks. Some live in how you feel. When things slow down, when the day ends, when the sky darkens, when your breath lengthens, and you let yourself fall into the long stillness that time provides. Entropy, the slow decay of systems, is one of the most powerful forces in physics. And yet, it makes no sound. It is time's silent sculptor. It turns heat to cold, order to chaos, presence to memory, and yet we live through it without fear, because we are made of change. You, as you are right now, will never exist again. But that isn't sadness. It's beauty. It means this moment matters. This breath, this stillness, and when it passes, another will follow. Not louder, just next. Because time is not a hammer. It is a breeze, a current, and silence is how it speaks. There's something that happens when you look up at night. Not just once, not just passing by, but truly look, letting the sky stretch above you, without needing it to answer. And in that moment, something inside you softens, not from exhaustion, not from despair, but from awe. The night sky is not only above you, it is within you, a mirror, not of your reflection, but of your rhythm. Its silence matches your quieter thoughts. Its depth slows your heartbeat. And that may be why, even before science, humans turned to the stars for comfort, because something happens to the mind. In the presence of vastness, it forgets itself. In a good way. The constant motion, the worrying, the planning, they drift. And what remains is simpler. Just breath, just presence, just smallness. That doesn't feel like failure, but like rest. In psychology, they call this cognitive offloading, letting the world carry what the brain no longer wants to hold. The stars can do that. without effort, without words. They say nothing. They promise nothing. But they allow you to be tiny, unfinished, unsure, and still beautiful. In 2024, researchers studied the effects of stargazing on the human brain. They found a measurable drop in stress hormones, an increase in deep-wave brain activity, a kind of meditative clarity, without effort, just from looking, just from being under, something that does not care, but somehow still comforts. And maybe that's the secret. The stars are not kind, not cruel. They are indifferent, but their silence makes room for you to exist. Without judgment, they do not need you to be better, vaster, smarter, more. They only need you to be still. And in that stillness, the mind begins to echo. Thoughts stretch wider. Old worries drift out of reach. The self becomes softer. Around the edges, you are no longer the center of your story. You are part of a story so vast, it doesn't need a center at all. And yet, you are not lost in it. You are held by it, as if the silence above is the same silence within. And looking up is a way of looking in. So tonight, as your eyes grow heavy and your breath slows, let the sky remain in you, not as stars, not as facts, but as a feeling, a vastness that accepts you, a silence that reflects you, a mirror you don't need to understand, only to face. Sleep is not an escape. It is a return to something older than thought, older than words, older even than dreams. When you close your eyes, the body does not turn off. It shifts. It descends like a spacecraft, falling gently out of orbit, guided not by engines, but by gravity and time, and silence, because sleep at its deepest level is built from quiet. Inside your brain, the noise begins to fall away. Waves of neural activity slow. Thoughts thin. Edges blur. You enter non-REM sleep, a place without story, without scenery, just space, pure rest. Delta waves rise, long, slow pulses that sweep across your cortex like tide over sand. These are not the waves of waking life. They are slower, deeper, rhythmic in a way only silence can hold. And then, a shift into REM, rapid eye movement. Dreams begin, not loud ones, not always vivid. Sometimes they are nothing more than moods, rooms, colors, but they are yours, formed in silence, cradled by stillness. In 2025, sleep researchers studying lucid dreamers found something strange, that even in their most vivid mental landscapes, there was always a background quiet, not emptiness, not absence, but a still field beneath everything else, a kind of mental dark matter that gave shape to the dream without being seen. And when we wake, we rarely remember that silence. We remember the voices, the images, but the silence is what made them possible. Much like the stars, or the spaces between them, the same way galaxies need darkness To shine, the mind needs silence. To dream, even your body listens. The heart rate slows. The breath deepens. The muscles become soft and heavy. You are not unconscious. You are entering another form of awareness, one that does not require language, only trust. The trust that silence will hold you when you stop holding everything else. So as you rest now, let go without falling, drift without fear. The universe sleeps too. Not all of it, but some of it. Stars that have cooled, worlds wrapped in night, comets waiting in frozen stillness. There is no rush, no signal, no noise, only this moment, this breath, this body, settling back into itself, like dust returning to water. Sleep does not come from effort. It comes from letting go, from surrendering to the gentle silence that has always been waiting, just beneath thought. Come back now, not all at once, not with noise, just gently, the way a tide returns to shore. Without announcement, the way light returns to sky. Before anyone notices, you have drifted far, across stars and atoms, through black holes and brainwaves, past silence deeper than sound, and time longer than memory. And yet, you have never left yourself, because in every quiet place we visited, the hush between planets, the slow breath of gravity, the ancient orbit of a comet, you were there, not watching, but mirroring. The silence between stars was never just out there. It was in your chest, your spine, your thought. And now, as the journey folds gently to a close, you don't need to leave it behind. You carry it. You are it. This stillness, this presence without demand, is not something you visit. It's something you return to. Like breath, like sleep, like home. Earth waits below. Not loud, not urgent, just turning, quietly, holding space for you. You might hear a distant sound, a car, a breeze, a voice. That's all right. The silence isn't broken by sound. It holds sound too, the way a sky holds both cloud and star. You are not required to stay in stillness forever, but you are allowed to. And tonight, maybe that's all you need. No answers, no revelations, just rest, just a soft descent into something slower than time. You began this journey under a sky full of silence, and now you lie beneath that same sky, eyes closed, thoughts loosened, breathing, not seeking, just being. And maybe that's all the universe ever asked of you. Not brilliance, not clarity, just the courage to be quiet long enough to hear your own peace. And when you wake, the stars will still be there, moving, shining, silent. But by then, you will understand. They were never quiet. You were just too full to hear. Now, you know, and now, you rest.